is the Folksy Friend, and I am doing an in-depth, lore-based review and breakdown of the final episode, episode 8, of Amazon's Rings of Power. So let's go ahead and just jump straight in. So with this opening scene where the kind of head priestess offers the apple back to the stranger, it is giving me forbidden fruit kind of vibes, like the evil character is offering the good character an apple, thinking biblically here, the snake offering Eve an apple, leading her into temptation. If this really is Sauron, I'm gonna be so disappointed. So this reference here to the sun began as something no larger than the palm of my hand, he is referring to a fruit of one of the true great trees, Telperion and Laurelin, those trees that lit Valinor before they were destroyed by Morgoth and Ungoliant, the giant spider monster. Before the tree of light, well, the golden tree, Laurelin, died, it produced one fruit, and it was this glowing, fiery fruit. And that is what they used to create the sun. They put the fruit into a vessel that the godsmith Alwë created, and one of the Maiar then charioted this vessel across the sky, and that is what created the sun. It's interesting that they seem to have so little time. They're also rushed because although the darkness does physically impact the elves, they should be able to feel it. So the idea that like no one knows except these select few that the light of the Eldar is starting to leave the elves is a little improbable because it is something they can physically feel. And there it is. Call it a gift. That is the confirmation we have been waiting for, that Halbrand is in fact Sauron. I was convinced that he was a red herring, but this is it. In the Silmarillion, Sauron disguises himself in the form of a beautiful, beautiful elf who calls himself Anatar, which means the giver of gifts or the bringer of gifts. And he basically pretends like he's been sent by the Valar from Valinor to help the elves. Obviously, they've changed it for this adaptation. They're making Halbrand a human, but clearly he's got Celebrimbor's trust. He just said that this knowledge is a gift. This has to be a reference to Anatar. This is Sauron. The fact that Celebrimbor trusts him so quickly, that also tracks with the lore. Celebrimbor is so desperate to create these rings that he really does not question what Sauron tells him. I am going to sit with my feelings for a little while about the fact that Galadriel is supposed to instinctively recognize Sauron on sight, and the fact that she has been traveling with Halbrand for quite some time, probably months at this point. I will comment on it after I have sat with my feelings. So I guess Gil-galad is supposed to just be stressed, and that's why he's acting like such an ass most of the time. It's tricky because I've been saying from the beginning, I just have a feeling that he's got something going on, like he's a little too suspicious. I'm wondering if the show is just having us believe that he's just real stressed out because the fate of the elves is basically on him, but it is just odd the way they're choosing to portray him. Well, that should have been an immediate red flag to Galadriel, and obviously she caught it, but that should be, she should have known in that moment that Halbrand was Sauron. He said the exact same line that Adar said, not of the flesh, but over flesh, clearly showing that he has been influenced by Sauron. That should have been the moment where we had Galadriel's wisdom finally kick in, and she goes, hold on, like, go, quick, clap him in irons, something. The fact that she's gonna clearly, judging by the look on her face, have to be dragged kicking and screaming to the conclusion that Halbrand is in fact Sauron is I will comment on it later. Okay. I am choosing to believe that this is all superb acting on Sauron's part, that he never actually had a moment where he thought that he was just some, cast aside, weak creature that was never going to be in power again. And that in this moment, he is really playing Galadriel, where he's basically saying, hey, this is your fault. If the showrunners mean to say that he genuinely had almost given up on himself and she's the one that kind of rekindled his desire for power, that no. There is no redeeming quality about Sauron. He is pure evil. He started off as a neutral spirit, but as soon as he turned his mind to darkness and fell in league with Morgoth, that's it. He is pure evil. There is no good in him. This isn't like one of those, oh, he had a sad childhood and he's misunderstood. No, he's evil. So I'm really hoping this is just him being cunning and really messing with her head because he knows how powerful she is. So that means these women have the wrong Maiar. I'm guessing that they just saw Amaya, which is a lesser god essentially, which is interesting because Gandalf and Sauron are both Maiar. They're of the same kind of power class, you could say. So it seems like these priestesses are just not able to discern one from another. Like all the Maiar are kind of the same to them, and they're assuming that Sauron has just lost his memory, which is going to be really embarrassing when he remembers that he is in fact an Astari, one of the 5 wizards. So at this point, he thinks that both of his sons are dead. Isildur's older brother died in the past, and then he thinks Isildur now is dead, even though we know he can't be. It's interesting because both Isildur and his brother play a really big part in this story. So I'm wondering if they're just going to abandon the brother plotline, or they are just gonna roll the two together. So her reference here to the faithful, those are the ones who are still faithful to the elves and the Valar and the ways of old. And like I said before, they are the minority of the people that live in Numenor. Very, very few people are still faithful to the old ways. So it seems like Miriel here is really gonna double down on her commitment to remain part of the faithful and bring the old ways back to Numenor. It's also interesting here that Elendil has such status in Numenor because in the Silmarillion, his family is essentially persecuted for being part of the faithful. So it seems like here it's just kind of hidden that he still really takes to elves and the old ways, whereas in the Silmarillion, it's pretty openly known. So the king has died, judging by the flags. So at this point, assumably Miriel would become queen, though in the Silmarillion, it is in fact Farzan who seizes upon the opportunity of the king's death to marry Miriel, even though she's his cousin. He actually changes her name to one that starts with Tar, like his own, and uses her essentially to take over the kingdom. So I wonder if we will see that, or if there's going to be some other kind of power struggle. Okay, so let's see how he's going to try to win her over. He's in her brain now. And Sauron is very good at mind games. Okay, so first tactic, he is trying to love bomb her through family, make it seem like Finrod, in fact, wants Sauron to take over. We'll see if this tactic works on her. It better not. Again, that's another one of those moments where something is just slightly off, and there's that manipulation. Touch the darkness once more. This is not what he said to her in the beginning. And it seems like that is finally what broke her out of it. She knows her brother would never talk like this. Okay. So what he's saying here, he felt like a hand was released from his neck, and in the sunrise, he felt the light of the One. Essentially, what he's saying here is when Morgoth was defeated and sent outside of the world, he was basically evicted from Arda, from Middle Earth, Ea, the whole world, and sent out into the void where Iluvatar lives. And Iluvatar is the god over even the gods that are in Middle Earth. He is the great big creator. He made literally everything, and he exists almost apart from the world. So the reference here is when Morgoth was sent out, in that moment, Sauron, Halbrand, was freed from his influence and he felt the light of Iluvatar, or the One, on him. He's saying basically that he realized that he was wrong and that he had been influenced and corrupted by Morgoth, and that really he's a good guy. So clearly now he's trying the sympathy tactic with her. So we'll see if this works. And now he's trying to rewrite her reality and what she thinks. He is gaslighting her. So we went from sympathy to gaslighting now. Let's see what he tries next. The raft with the 4 prongs and the sail in the middle, with Halbrand standing right in front of the sail. Is it just me, or does that kind of look like the Eye of Sauron? Oh, now he's trying romance. Okay, now he's trying to literally seduce her. We've heard that before. Stronger than the foundations of the earth. Beautiful, treacherous as the sea. He is using the exact same language, well, mostly the same language that she herself uses later when Frodo offers her the ring and she has a moment where she is tempted, but she does not give into it. She pulls back, and that's when she is finally able to return to Valinor, the Undying Lands. Very clearly here, he is pulling on not only her sense of pride, but also her desperation to be loved and to be seen, especially because in this show, their version of Galadriel has been very alone and very rejected by pretty much everyone, including Elrond to an extent. Although he is probably closest to her, he did still lie to her and try to get her to go back to Valinor. So she's probably feeling like she does not have a friend in the world, really. And he is trying to use that to then seduce her over to his side. And there he goes, also appealing to her desperation to heal Middle Earth from all the things it suffered. Wow. Like, A+ in manipulation, my dude. Which 100% tracks with Sauron. He is a master manipulator, and he learned from the best. He himself was seduced by Morgoth. Tolkien's exact words, seduced. Possible that they met for the first time by the sea. We do know that when Elrond's family is destroyed, not everyone is killed. Like I've said in the past, his mother and father don't actually die. The show's making it seem like Galadriel kind of finds him right after that like he's this kid wandering around on the beach. She helps him. In reality, he's actually raised by the people that attacked his family. But because, again, Amazon doesn't have the rights to the first age, I think they're just making it seem like the tragedy of Elrond's house then resulted in Galadriel like finding him and Elros and like helping them and befriending them. In the books, from what I can tell, they would have first met at either a White Council meeting or before, but there is no distinctive moment where Tolkien says, and then Galadriel met Elrond. So I'm not 100% sure that this couldn't be the truth. It's possible. So to talk about Ruin that they've been mentioning, and the priestesses mentioned that they were from, now Gandalf, we're pretty sure it's Gandalf, has said that he needs to go there. It's interesting because he never actually goes there in the books. The only person of significance that ever goes there is Aragorn, but Tolkien never even wrote about what Aragorn saw there or found there. We really know nothing about Ruin except that it's where the Easterlings are from, so the people that Sauron calls upon to help fight against the humans in the Third Age, and I think in the Second Age actually. They come from Ruin. It's the Far East, essentially. But other than that, we know practically nothing. There is likely parts of the old world where the elves awoke over there because they did awaken in the east and travel west. But as far as what the people are like, culture, society, power wise, we just don't know. So it's interesting that we may get to see the showrunner's idea of what Ruin is like. I'm not sure why Gandalf needs to journey there to learn things, but I guess we'll find out next season. And there's our confirmation that it is Gandalf. He is calling to mind, of course, the scene in Moria where they're lost and they don't know which passage to take, and Gandalf smells one of the passageways that it is less foul than the other two. So this is 100% the show's way of telling us, without really telling us, that this is Gandalf. And I'm glad that it is. And there are the rings. They have finally been made. Like I mentioned in the past, these rings are used to keep the evil at bay long enough for the elves to continue to live and kind of thrive in Middle Earth. I'm still not 100% sure what all the urgency is about, the fact that they essentially need to make the rings now or get out. They make it almost seem like the elves are all just going to drop dead when the last leaf falls from the great tree. But this is not Beauty and the Beast. They are not bound by the petals of some plant. But they're making it, I think, for the sake of pacing and interest. They're making it seem like there's some great rush. Canonically, what happens next is Sauron creates his ring. What I think is interesting is that he spent so little time in Eregion. Halbrand, Sauron, was only there for what seemed like a couple of days, and they only ended up making the 3 elvish rings. So I'm wondering how on earth the dwarven rings and the human rings are going to come into this, because Celebrimbor should make all of them. In fact, if I remember correctly, Celebrimbor made the elven rings last, I think. It's just interesting that it seems like they desperately had to create these rings, even though Galadriel knew Sauron wanted them to. Then that's it. They're going to stop. So how on earth they're going to convince him to make the others, I'm not sure. Are they going to have Sauron make the other rings? I don't know. But there he goes to Mount Doom. And Adar is still there. So who knows how that showdown is going to work. Okay. Final thoughts. If it wasn't for Galadriel, I would be 100% okay with how they did Halbrand being Sauron. It's fine that he is not this beautiful elf lord. They wanted to kind of hide him in plain sight, make it a bit of a reveal. It's an adaptation. They're going to change things. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Still, what I'm not okay with is how they 100% removed every semblance of wisdom from Galadriel, and they rewrote her as a character. They essentially made someone new and slapped Galadriel's name on there. I think that's just unforgivable, because it's not a matter of just changing things here or there or combining some characters, moving some things. And it may just be me because I love her character so much, but I struggle so hard to accept everything that they've chosen to do when they have rewritten a character entirely. There's so little about this Galadriel that tracks from the books besides the lip service to her history. Her actions, her motivations, her behavior, the way she speaks, it's not Galadriel. It's some other character that they've just given Galadriel's name. And I truly think that the show would have been 1,000 times better had they made this elf an individual new character who can have the same revenge motivations, and then kept Galadriel as she should have been in Lindon with Gil-galad as someone who is just seen from time to time and who distrusted Sauron on sight. Because the thing is, the evil in him cannot be ignored by anyone who is of the light to the extent that she is. She should have instinctively, down to her little elfy bones, been able to tell that that man is evil. And I understand that the show was making the point that she was so blinded by vengeance at everything that had happened during the Great War that she basically lost herself and she could not see this evil that was right in front of her. I understand what they're trying to do. I sat on this with my feelings for like literally overnight. I watched the show yesterday. I was essentially on the edge. Is this episode going to lose me entirely? Is it going to 100% pull me in and I'll forgive everything up to this point that I haven't liked? I think unfortunately I'm still teetering on the edge of being angry with how they've done things like Galadriel's character. Well, I am angry about that, but I'm teetering on the edge of hating it as Tolkien and still loving it from just an entertainment point of view. I mean, there are moments that feel so Tolkien. The moments of Nori saying goodbye to her family, Numenor, and the things we see there. Everything with Bronwyn and Arondir have felt very Tolkien. It's just such a shame that they have done such a disservice to the elves and to Galadriel. And considering how important the elves are to the first and second ages, it makes it so much more difficult to accept when they change things because of their elf problem. That being said, I still did enjoy it from a visual standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint. If you dismiss some of the, well, if you dismiss a lot of the Silmarillion and just look at this in and of itself as a story and a show, it's been brilliant. It really has. A couple of things here or there don't really make sense, but overall, like, it's really good. The production value, costuming, the dialogue, stunning, truly. It's nice that they've thrown these kind of like hints in at the movies and the Silmarillion and, you know, Tolkien's world as a whole. It's just such a shame that they were not able to fully capture the elves and especially Galadriel's character. And had that been a smaller issue, it would have been inconsequential to the overall show. But it's not a small issue. She's the main character, one of them. So it makes it so much harder to overlook what they've done with her. Overall, I still will be watching season 2. I did still enjoy it. Let me know what you think. If you think I'm just way too nerdy and way too into this, that is probably very true. But I feel like Tolkien is a lot to a lot of people, and these stories are so close to a lot of hearts that there is going to be a great big outcry when there are things that are changed, done differently, or when people like me feel like something is done wrong. So let me know if you agree or disagree, what you think. I will be coming out in a couple of days with my first look into the Silmarillion, starting with the creation of the world, and hopefully I will continue going from there. Thank you for spending some time with me, the folksy friend.